Today on Meet Your Body, we are talking about aging over the age of 60. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Jessica Valant, a physical therapist and Pilates teacher, and I want to bring science-based knowledge, empathy, courage, support, love, and hopefully some fun to the journeys we have with our bodies. There is hope and strength in your body, and my goal is to help you find it. Welcome back to Meet Your Body. I am so happy to be talking with you today, and I cannot explain to you the happiness in my heart bringing you this episode today. So last week we released an episode that was me talking about how I am handling the aging process right now. I am almost 46 years old. You guys know if you've been listening and kind of following me, I've been in perimenopause about 18 months. I'm kind of in that journey, figuring it out. I'm bringing you along with me on this journey. And so last week, I talked specifically about some things that I am doing around exercise and my attitude and choices and skincare and so many things. So it was one of our most popular episodes, and I highly recommend you go back and listen to that. And I got a great email afterwards saying, thank you so much. This is really helpful. This is great information. I am in my 60s, and I would love at some point for you to have a discussion with women in their 60s and how they are dealing with aging. And I appreciated that so much that we decided to make it happen. So I put a call out to my Unlimited community. And if you aren't familiar with that, we have an online membership here at Jessica Valant Pilates called Unlimited. We have hundreds and hundreds of online workouts to choose from. We have beginner programs, gentle programs, advanced programs, monthly workout calendars, awesome challenges we run. It's a really, really supportive place on how to feel empowered in your body at any age, at any fitness level. So we have some amazing people there. So I did put the call out and I said, hey, is there anyone who would want to participate in a fun project with me over the age of 60 who's willing to share their stories? And I was just so humbled by the responses. So we had so many people willing to talk about this. So I'm hoping to bring you more stories actually as we progress. But today we have 3. So I have 3 amazing members who agreed to come on this podcast with me. We are talking to Peggy and Cricket and Melissa, all women over the age of 60, having just a really honest and vulnerable conversation about aging, about how it feels, what they've experienced, some things that have surprised them around aging. And truly, I can't quite explain to you how honored I was to talk to these women and have this conversation. So we're bringing it to you today. I hope you get as much out of it as I did. And what I really, really want to remind you of is that your story matters. And that's what I told these women as well. And that's what continues to hit me day after day. Your story matters. It matters to someone. It matters out there in the universe. Share it with people if you're able to, because you could make a difference in someone's life, even if it's just your neighbor, even if it's someone in your family, someone in your household. Share your story so that they know they aren't alone, and then listen to other people's stories so that you know you aren't alone. It's so important, I believe, that we continue to listen to each other, to listen to stories, and then be willing to tell our own when and if that time comes. So today we are talking about aging over the age of 60, and I hope you love this conversation as much as I do. Let's get started. Okay, here we are. Thank you all again for being here. I am so thrilled to have you. I told everyone in the intro to this podcast episode kind of what to expect. And I'm going to have all of you introduce yourselves, whatever you want us to know. I always like to say, tell your story, because I feel like we all have our story and we all tell it a little bit differently. But let us know who you are, how old you are, maybe where you live, and then whatever, like I said, kind of about your story or your place in the world that you want us to know. And Peggy, I'm going to have you go first.
Okay, so I am Peggy. I will be 61 next month. I live in the Northeast, so it's New York State, but upstate. I have two adult daughters. I'm on my second marriage and definitely hit the jackpot the second time around. So what else about me? I have been exercising my entire life. I had an eating disorder in my early 20s, which lasted for a long time. And I only just stopped dieting about a year and a half ago. So I'm kind of struggling with body image because I almost identify with being thin. Like that's a part of my identity. I don't like that, but I can't imagine being any other way. I mean, I did put 10 pounds on, which is more than I would have been able to handle a year ago or 2 years ago, but I'm trying to exercise more instead of concentrating on the eating. And I'm the type of person, I like to exercise, but I don't like to exercise. So it's hard for me sometimes to get through the home workouts if no one's watching over me and telling me I have to finish. So, I do struggle with that, and I struggle with procrastination and things like that. But I'm really happy to be here to be talking about all the different things that are going on.
Thank you. And thanks for sharing all that, for sure. Cricket, do you want to go next?
I am Cricket Grenison. I am an Air Force veteran. I live in Ohio. I'm a Texas girl relocated in frosty Ohio. We had snow. Anyway, I work, I grew up, like I said, I'm 63, so I grew up, same era Peggy did, where focus was so much body image. And, you wanted to be skinny, like Twiggy, model skinny, and I did model. I didn't have, per se, an eating disorder, but I definitely, as I grew older, became a parent, I was still focused on that because I was like not happy with how my body changed. And I didn't know, even though I've been active my whole life, I didn't know the right tools, the right nutrition, any of that. So it's been a journey for me learning all of that. And I also work in the healthcare field. And I sit here and I watch people. I'm not on any medication. I strive real hard to maintain my health. I have horses. I'm still really active at my age. I still ride horses, work with horses, do equine therapy with people. And so it's important to me because that's an important key in my life to stay healthy and strong. I don't want to be skinny. I want to be healthy and strong. And I think that is what I want to put out there for everybody. That should be your focus, healthy and strong. Be who you are in your own skin and love yourself in that skin, because this is all you got. And you can change it with all kind of stuff, but you don't need to. Just love yourself and be yourself and eat right and be healthy. So that's my focus. And I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm so grateful to finding you on YouTube because your program has changed my life in the respect that, I always got focused on one thing, like yoga. I'm doing yoga and then I'm doing weights and then and I just didn't have a well-balanced program. And that's what your program brings to me, Jessica. So I just love it. And I'm so happy to be a member of it. And thank you. And I'll shut up now.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that so much. Thank you for being here. All right, Melissa, let's hear from you.
Hi, y'all. I'm Melissa, and I live in Miami, Florida. And I am the senior member of this group at 68 years old. And I've been physically active most of my life. I think at about 19, I had a pretty serious depression. And my brother took me out on the tennis court and got me going. And I realized I can do this. I have strength. I have power. I can, So I kind of learned that connection between my body and my uplifting my mind. And I have a daughter who's 26. I had her when I was 42. I'm kind of a late bloomer in every way. And I have to agree with Cricket that finding Jessica on YouTube was like a godsend for me because
Mm.
I, in the last 2 years, developed or realized I had a problem in my spine. And I thought, well, what have I done to deserve this? Just get old? Or was it because I wore heels when I was, working? Or is it because, who knows why? But it's a disc that's sitting on a bundle of nerves, and some days are worse than others. But I did go to physical therapy um, and a doctor, and they both said, you're doing all the right things. I walk every day and I do Pilates, and my Pilates instructor, who's also in her 60s, retired earlier this year. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because one of the challenges I find about getting older is that finding the discipline or the structure in my day. And so, I can do stuff on my own, but it's just not as effective for me without that structure, and having a daily thing to follow is really helpful for me. And also to work different sets of muscles, because you can do the same thing every day and then just get bored. So I'm very happy with the program. I'm really glad I joined, and this is great. I appreciate
Thank
being able
you.
to do it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I promise I did not choose these members to be a commercial for Unlimited, but thank you very
No,
much. But I promise
you
I
can't help
didn't
it.
tell them to say that. So because each of you actually brought this up, and I always love hearing stories so much, and I feel like we could just talk about that forever. But what's interesting, each of you did bring up movement, like in some way, shape, or form, movement, exercise, feeling strong. I love that idea that movement can bring us out of that place of, like, you had a depression you talked about. So you all talked about movement. And when I did a podcast last week, because I'm almost 46, so I feel like perimenopause, I'm in that place. And so I definitely talked about exercise and how it feels different for me in this body. And I would love for you all to touch on just that idea. Like, does exercise feel different than it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Maybe even in a good way of, oh, I see the value of it more, like you said, about being strong versus just wanting to lose weight. But just anything that comes to mind, like how exercise feels now versus then, and how you kind of use it now versus maybe you did 30 years ago. And whoever wants to go first, I can call on you if you want, but if anyone has a thought first. Yeah, Cricket.
I guess.
Oh,
go ahead, Cricket.
Oh, no, go ahead. Okay, Cricket,
I
you go,
didn't.
then Melissa.
I didn't really. I was always active, so I didn't really feel like I needed regimented workout. I mean, I did in the military, but being around horses and my kids when they were in sports, I was always the team mom, and so I was always active. But as I got older, I had a hysterectomy earlier in my life, in my 30s, so I went through menopause super early. I mean, it was like bam, gone. So you didn't get, mine was just instant menopause.
Yeah.
So, and so when that happened, the effects of working out affects your body so differently. You don't have like the energy. So you have to stay working out to keep your energy levels up and you have to start eating differently and getting the proper rest and nutrition. Because if you don't, I mean, I could tell a big difference back in my 30s, and now I'm in my 60s, and I actually have a heck of a lot more energy because I've found the right program, and I wished I'd found it earlier, but that's how I feel. But the bad thing is I'm not as flexible. I wish I were a little bit more bendy than I was back then. But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's great. And Melissa?
Yeah, I have to agree. I find flexibility more challenging, and also I for many years I danced, and so that kind of gave me a lot of discipline about, if I didn't work out, if I didn't dance, if I didn't do something, I felt like, oh, I didn't get enough air today, or I didn't, it just was so important to my everyday life. And I'm getting lost here. But yeah, it feels different to certain things I realize I can't do anymore because of the pain in my back. I have to watch that. And, sometimes you get creaky when you get into your 60s. I like if I extend my leg out one way and I suddenly try to bring it back in, it's like, oh no, it's not coming back. It gets stuck. So, things like that you don't expect, but they happen, and then you work around it.
Mm-hmm. And Peggy, any thoughts on all that?
Yeah, it has changed a lot for me, but I have to say I was never very coordinated. I didn't have any athletic ability. It was embarrassing as a kid, can't catch a ball, all that stuff. So as I got older, I started Jane Fonda videos. Those were some of my first forays into exercise. And of course, she's prancing around in that perfect little body. And my daughter calls it body dysmorphia. I see it in a much different way than the way it looks. So I never enjoyed my exercise. I started running because I figured I got more bang for my buck. Well, I never did more than 3 miles at a time. And I pretty much threw it. And then I just cycle in and out and in and out. And, the other day I was sitting there doing one of your videos and it was a stretch and I couldn't really do it. And then I thought, it's okay. I don't have to do that stretch. What I'm doing here is I'm taking care of my body. And I want to be able to be physically active as I age. So this to me changes my whole perspective on exercising. I want it to be a tool to keep me, like you say in your videos, picking up the grocery bags, being able to do that. I have to be more careful on the stairs now than I ever did. And I realize that I have my shoulders aren't loose. Like when I try to do some of the stretches with the shoulders, like today in the arms video, I'm like, that's not happening. But it just feels good that I'm doing something that's bringing my body along with me on this journey.
Yes. And each of you kind of touched on it, but I just think that's so important. And anyone listening, I'm sure everyone listening can relate. I believe, especially in our society, at least in the US and a lot of places and social media now and marketing, I think probably most people and women especially have some disordered way of thinking of eating or thinking of our bodies. I mean, it is almost impossible to get away from it. And so you all talking about it and mentioning, how now you're realizing, oh, I can move for this reason. I mean, hopefully that brings hope to people and also lets them know you're not alone if you're home thinking that. Like we've all been through it in different generations. And, my mom is in her mid to late 70s now. And same, I grew up watching her in that absolute constant diet culture. And then I grew up being told by every commercial that Special K was all I needed to eat. Apparently, that's just a full nutritional powerhouse. Just have Slim Fast and Special K. And that's what I thought. I mean, we need to have these conversations and we need to have this realistic view of how amazing our bodies really are because, marketing out there just doesn't tell us the whole story. So thank you. I think that's really important. Let's, if we can, because I know a lot of people have questions about menopause. So if you guys don't mind, we're just going to dive right in because I know when I've talked about perimenopause, those episodes are through the roof popular and the same with menopause. And so I just would love for each of you to tell, again, kind of your story, and we'll kind of follow up questions afterwards. But I think everyone's is so different. Cricket, like what you mentioned. I mean, both ovaries gone in your 30s, you just dove right into it. So if each of you want to just tell your experience with that and, kind of how that manifested for you and anything you learned through that process.
Well, I'll go. I don't have a lot to say because I was very, very lucky. I really didn't have a lot of menopause symptoms. I don't remember having hot flashes. It just happened and I went through it. And I guess the only thing I notice is that my body is not young anymore. So I don't have a lot to say because I was just really lucky.
Well, and I think that's a lot to say, actually. That's wonderful and important for people to hear too, because so many of us just hear the stories of, it's so bad for everyone. And I think it's so great to know that's not always the case. And that's okay. You don't have to apologize for it. That's great. All of us are different and experience different things, but it's so important to know. And I'll throw this out there because you all know it's one of my soapboxes that getting online and Googling things can be so helpful sometimes. And sometimes it isn't very helpful because a lot of the times the stories online are the scary, bad ones because those are the ones that people need to talk about, right? A lot of times when people have a really good experience, Peggy, like you did, like you said, you don't have a lot to say. So just know those good stories are out there. They're just not usually as loud, but they are absolutely out there. And I think that's the case with every condition, every disease, every injury, everything out there. The good stories are out there too. So that's a great point. Melissa and Cricket?
Well, I am also one of the lucky ones in the sense that I may have had one or two hot flashes, and other than that, I guess I went through menopause kind of late because because I had my child, my one and only child, late in my 40s, and I think it just happened. It went by, and then I thought, hallelujah, no more mood swings, no more insanity, because when I had my periods, I was just a nutcase, and my moods went up and down, and I felt like I, exploded, and it's I was Mrs. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll kind of thing, and then now I just feel so much more, even on an even keel. So
that's great to know. So you had a really good experience in that. You've actually felt better afterwards.
Yeah, I really did. Sorry, Cricket.
I'm the nightmare here.
Great, let's hear it.
No, I had one ovary taken out at 16. Then they found another cyst on my remaining, so they took part out because I was still in my 20s and still having children.
Okay.
And then after my last child, they found another one, and I was like, you know what? If I got to go through this again, just take it all out. I'm done. I'm not having any more kids. Take it out. Because, that roller coaster ride in itself was even worse. So they took everything out. And like I said, I went into it. And when you do that, you lose your hormones go wacko. They go wacko. You want to talk about mood swings? If I did not get the proper sleep, I was the worst person to be. I was cranky Cricket. I'm telling you what, I was not nice to be around. And so I had to make sure I had enough sleep. I had to make sure I stayed active because active is what gave me the good feeling endorphins to kind of offset those bad feelings. So I was using exercise kind of like as a medicine, I guess, without even realizing it. I was using it because I got even more active, just so I could sleep better and get through it. And I'm the one that had the hot flashes. You would see me I would wear sports bras because if I was sitting in my car and I flashed, I would pull my shirt off and I didn't care. Yeah. That is how hot I would get. So, yeah, I was the nightmare. Wear sports bras are great. People don't know. So, but and that I think though kicked me in. The elasticity in my skin, goes away. Like I said, your hormones have to level out, and they didn't have good hormone replacement therapy. I did try that later, and it was great at first, but then I had to go through menopause a second time, which wasn't as bad because I wasn't on them that long, but I really don't recommend that. I figure once you've gone through it, just use your eating, your exercising and sleeping just to kind of level yourself out and go from there. Everybody's different. And I was the nightmare, and look at those two wonderful women.
That's right.
I bet your childbirth was easy too, right?
Exactly.
No, that's a different story.
Yes, it
No.
was. Unfortunately, it was.
All the kidding.
Thank you all for sharing that. Yeah, those are questions. And I think it's just so important, like I said, to get the stories out. And yeah, don't apologize if you had a great one and share your story if you didn't have a great one. And everyone know that you just don't know until you're in it. I mean, I really think that's the case. You just don't. So keep talking about it and let's share about it because I'm hoping this is the first time that women really have started to feel comfortable talking about it, that it's okay to talk about it. Because it wasn't, when I was growing up, it wasn't something women talked about. And if they did, it was a really big, scary thing that you closed the door and you just ignored was coming. Because so hopefully now we can change that a little bit. I do have a question, and this can go, any direction that you want it to go. But I would love to hear anything that has really surprised you. And it can be in a good way or maybe a not so good way or maybe one of both, but something that is, that as you've entered either your 50s or now your 60s, something that has surprised you about reaching the age that you are now.
I'm
Well,
way
I
more
can start.
confident now because I don't have the pressure of being young. I'm much more confident in myself and my ability to do things, and I feel more empowered. That's how I feel because I guess because I don't care anymore. I don't I don't know, but I just feel I don't feel old at all. I'm 63 is just a number to me. I don't feel like I'm 63. Like I said, I'm really active. I'm really healthy and I'm grateful. And because of that, I think that empowers me too. And being able to move and exercise and be challenged. I'm still hurting from Monday, by the way. I will let you know. My quads are okay.
Don't worry, everyone. It's a good hurt. I'm sure it's a good hurt.
So, but no, that's where I'm at. Just empowered and just loving life. I am.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And Peggy, go ahead. I know you were going to jump
in. What were we talking about again? Sorry. What was the question?
Anything good or bad that has surprised you about aging?
I think what surprised me the most is that my mind still thinks I'm 30. I don't feel old. But then the other thing is I was always one of those people who would never speak up for myself. I thought that if you got angry or expressed anger, you had to scream and yell because that's what I knew. So I didn't want to lose control. And I had a horrible feeling of making anybody else upset. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that I don't care. Like my sister lives across the street and I'll go over in my pajamas. I don't care anymore. If you don't like it, don't look. And I used to wear makeup from the moment I got up in the morning at night. And I don't have any on now and I don't care. And that's what I like about aging. And some of my girlfriends have had plastic surgery. One had it on her neck and then their eyes and stuff. And I don't want that. I want to just age as gracefully as possible. My aunt was 93 when she died, and she had a sense of style like nobody. And I mean, she was just gorgeous. So that's what her name was Peggy as well. So I said, I always want to grow up to be my Aunt Peggy. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. Melissa?
Yeah, I have to agree with both of you. I feel a lot more relaxed about everything than I ever did, and less concerned about looking a certain way. Of course, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was laid off from my job, and then for everybody, I'm sure the whole world changed. And I'm divorced, and my daughter lives. She's moving from Tennessee to New York City right now, so she's on her own. And it's a big adjustment in a way that surprised me. I didn't see into the future to know what the empty nest was going to look like, and Um, uh, yeah, basically that.
Mhm.
But I do feel just entirely much more relaxed and easygoing about everything.
Mm.
I don't get as carried away being freaked out about the little stuff,
Mhm.
and I don't have time for people who do. I'm not afraid to admit it.
And for all of you, and we can just go in the same order, but kind of alongside that, is there anything that you wish you would have known beforehand? So if you were talking to anyone, in their 30s right now, or even 40s, what do you kind of wish you would have known, or what would you want to tell them to know that maybe you didn't know?
Everything, everything, nutrition, exercising, um, having a good body image about yourself, loving yourself,
Mm.
leave all that garbage out there, I can dress up and look really nice when I go out, but I don't have to. And you shouldn't be made to feel like you have to. Be comfortable in your own skin. I wish I had known how to take better care of myself. I grew up when everybody smoked. I smoked. Now I got lungs. These are things, I mean, fortunately I quit, but I didn't know how to take care of myself like I do now. I mean, the information is all out there. Don't neglect yourself trying to fit in or be somebody. Be yourself. That's all I've got to say is just be yourself, love yourself, and be as healthy as you can possibly be, because this is all you have. This is it.
Mhm.
In cosmetic surgery, that stuff's expensive. I wouldn't do that in 100 years. No. I have friends that do that, and it's like, why would you put yourself through that? I mean, it's just going to sag in another 5 years. I mean, that's like putting a Band-Aid on your car, on a dent in your car. You're just covering up. But anyway, yeah, just love yourself and take care of yourself and be as healthy as you can possibly be and keep a good attitude. I
Mhm.
mean, be happy.
Mhm. Yep. And Peggy?
Well, along the same lines, I just remember someone said that they prayed for to be content with what they already have, not to be pushing for the next thing and the next thing. And I do try to be more mindful, especially like I've had some dizziness and don't have the balance. I think it's from when I had COVID in January.
Mhm.
So I try to be more mindful as I'm moving, but also I try to make that more in the moment too when I'm having something to eat, like enjoying it, not shoving it into so I can get up and start washing the dishes, that kind of a
Right.
thing. So I think I would tell myself to just stop for a minute, take in what's around you, and try to be appreciative for what you have.
Mhm. That's great.
Yeah.
And Melissa?
Well, I have to agree again with everybody here that when Cricket said, you know, just be yourself, it made me think of a quote from Oscar Wilde who said, just be yourself because everybody else is already taken.
Mhm.
And yeah, I agree with that. And to love yourself and the body that you have, because at 68, I know I have far more behind me than I do ahead of me. So that makes life a lot more precious. And you want to make every day count, and you want to be as kind to your body as you can be. And exercise is a huge part of that for me.
Mhm. Yeah, that's wonderful. And maybe each of you, because that's a good segue actually to another question I had. What exercise, and I always say movement too, because I think when we say workout, I'm saying that in air quotes for those who can't see. That too has its own connotations, right? From when we're young and making us feel like, oh, I have to sweat all the time and be in my leotard and all those things. So we'll just say movement. movement slash exercise, like what does it look like for each of you now? What do you find yourself drawn to? Like, do you like to do it at home? Do you like to go to the gym? Do you like to be outside? Do you like weights? Like, what is it? What do you kind of find yourself drawn to, or what feels good in your body right now?
Well,
I
some
like
things.
everything.
Oh.
I live in the country, so I don't have a place I can go. And fortunately, I'm really regimented. I have a routine when I get up and I work out. But I like I said, yours gives me cardio, which I hate cardio. I'm right there with you. I hate it, but because I will do it. And so that's a good thing for me. And the weights and the stretching, I love Pilates. And I found I love Pilates more than I love yoga. But I still like yoga. I get more, I feel more, I like the muscle control you have with Pilates, I guess. And then, I'm indoors and outdoor all day long. Like I said, I live on a farm. I have horses. So I don't get the luxury of just being inside. So I have to be out, take the dogs out and whatever. So, so being able to be, having it at my fingertips, whereas when I grew up, I didn't have that. You had to actually go somewhere. We didn't have this. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have tablets and computers that you could watch this from. If there was anything, you had a few people on TV that you had to wait. We didn't even have video recorders until later, in my years. So, I mean, you had Jack LaLanne back in the day. So, so everything has changed. So I appreciate having the ability to be able to get out of bed, go do my stuff, get a cup of coffee, look and see what you're going to have me do today, and get prepared for that and do it when it fits me. If I got to take a break, I can come back 10 minutes later. So movement, all of it, the exercise, the weights, all of that. I find it right now in my body, for me at this stage of the game, is what I need. And I'm done.
And Peggy, go ahead. I know you were going to jump in.
So I was going to say what I like most about exercise is when it's over. I never found anything that made me excited about exercising. Never. I've done, Pilates, yoga, those step classes and the aerobics classes and the weights. Like I did that P90X for a while with my ex-husband and stuff. Yeah. So nothing thrills me. Give me a book and I'll go sit down and read for an hour. That's exciting. I do like to walk. That I do. We've got 2 dogs, or just one now, but that kind of makes me get out. And I do enjoy walking. I guess that's considered exercise, but as for anything other than that, I do it because it's good for me. Like eating broccoli.
Fair enough. And Melissa?
I enjoy exercise. There are certainly times when I feel like I don't really feel like it, but I know that I'm going to feel better when I do. And I am a walker. I walk, 2 or 3 miles at least once a day. And I live in a climate that's friendly for me, except for during the worst part of the summer. There was a part of this summer when it was, in the triple digits every day. And I couldn't breathe out there. So it was very frustrating because I wanted to be able to get that, get going kind of feeling. It's not the same if you're doing it indoors. So I tried going to IKEA and walking around. It's big, and it was cool. But I need to be outside. I need to get outside too. And I really, really enjoy Pilates and the strengthening and I've been doing Pilates, but maybe 3 times a week for years. And just doing that challenge for 30 days straight it was a challenge, but it was a good kind of challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
I really feel a difference. So, you know, doing it on the daily is really a good thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, I enjoy it when
Yeah.
it's over too, but mostly because of the kind of rush and the glow that I feel after a
Yeah.
good workout.
Yeah. It tends to do that. We just have to get through it in order to feel that at the end, don't we? I want to ask, just because this is something that's kind of hitting me right now, and I know everybody is different, but having this conversation, I know people ask, 'cause like I said, I get questions and DMs and emails and all the things and responses from, mine about perimenopause. And I feel like at least my people, women my age, for, early mid 40s to later 40s, who are getting into this perimenopause place, asking about, skincare. What are you going to do? How do you address that? And procedures, like you said, and hair and all of the things. And I have not heard any of you bring any of those things up. Like, what I've heard is being grateful, appreciating what you have, being comfortable in your skin, confidence. And this is just ringing through my brain. And I'm just curious if you guys want to speak to that just a little, on if you feel like that importance has changed, like in the past 20 years as you've gotten older, or if for you it just never did and it just might be a personality thing. I'm just curious because I love hearing that, and I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
I have to agree. I would never do anything to my face surgically, except I had skin cancer on my face, and so I had to have surgery there, which was pretty scary. But um, I just wouldn't go under the knife personally,
Mm-hmm.
unless I had some, cancer or something that required
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, I find that, yeah, as you get older, your skin is not as elastic, and it gets dry, and so you have to take care and drink plenty of water, because that makes a lot of difference in how your skin reacts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as far as hair is concerned, I have a ton of it, and I always said, I'm just going to let it go natural. But every time I reach a certain point, I look in the mirror and go, who the hell is that? Where's all this gray coming from? And so then I'll go and put a rinse in my hair, and then I'll feel a little bit more
Yeah.
like myself. But
Yeah.
I'm reaching a point now where, how long are you going to do that, Melissa, until your face looks like the Wicked Witch of the West, and then, your hair looks like, I don't know. What do you do? Where do you draw the line? I don't know. I don't know what to tell anybody else.
No, that's great. That's great. Peggy or Cricket, any thoughts?
Yeah.
Go. Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything. And again, if you'd asked me when I was 20, did I want to have a
Mm-hmm.
butt lift or get my stomach flattened, I would have been the first one in
Mm-hmm.
line. Thank God I never had the opportunity. But if you ask me
Mm-hmm.
now, it's like, for sure, oh, okay, I'll get a facelift, but it's not going to last. It's only temporary, and it's only on the outside. It doesn't do anything for the inside. And I just
Mm-hmm.
noticed within the last few years that, I'm starting to get a few wrinkles on the face. My face is getting drier. But, and I do dye my hair, but I'm still working. And I think that I'm going to continue to do that until I retire. Because I think in the business world, like when I just started this job in last December, and I was worried about looking old on my resume, like with the dates and things. And so I actually fudged some dates, but then I didn't need to worry about it because my boss is older than I am. But I didn't know that when I was applying. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
a little ageism, which is, I think, maybe why some people do that, because they feel like they're not as respected if they're older. If you're on the way out, you're done here. So basically, I'm just going to ride it out with my dyed hair.
Yeah. Yep. And Cricket, go ahead.
Yeah. I used to model. I used to wear makeup. My nails were done. And that was important to me. I wouldn't go to the grocery store without makeup on. Because again, it was the self-image world that I lived in, and that's what everybody did. And so I grew up with that. And then, the only thing I do now, I wouldn't go under the knife. Number one, I never could afford it. But number two, I don't handle anesthesia well to begin with. And I don't want to die because you risk that every single time. And I'm just not going to do that. I love my life. And that's not important to me. But I do dye my hair because I still work. And my hair is dark. It's black. I'm Native American. So when it comes in, it's white. And I can't make it look cool. Some people can have that cool Cruella DeVille, thing going on, but I can't make it look cool and handle it. I'm just going to keep until probably when I quit working is probably when I'll just say forget it and let it go. But I've got a little ways to go with that. So that's probably the only vanity thing I have. I wear makeup, when my husband takes me out, I get dressed up, I'll put makeup on. And, for special events, I will. But I just, eating right and getting the proper amount of sleep, good nutrition. And, I just clean my face and put moisturizer on it. And any wrinkles I have are probably self-induced from back in the day when I smoked, more so than now. So I think because I'm now doing everything right, it has slowed that process down. So I'm grateful because I don't look as old as some people that are younger look because of their habits and lifestyle. So that's a big difference. So that's all I got there.
Well, thank you all. And I just, like I said, it's so, to me, it's like a really joyful thing hearing you all talk about it and knowing, there are places you can go and read and you see a list of 20 things you need to do, right? Like this is what you need to eat, but this is what you need to put on your skin. And these are the, chemical peels you need. And this is what you need. Like, how do you stay young? And it is a list of 20 things that feel very overwhelming. And then you realize maybe that's just a magazine. Maybe that's just some clickbait. Maybe what we should really be doing is having conversations like this with women who walk in front of us and before us to hear what it's really like, to hear you all saying, like I said, that about being grateful and about being comfortable in your own skin and just that those are the lessons you're kind of learning. I think it should give the rest of us a lot of hope because I think there is a lot of ageism in our country and in our society as a whole. There's a lot of ageism, and I think we have to fight it all the time, and we shouldn't have to because people who walked before us are the ones we should honor and listen to the stories of. So thank you. I really enjoy hearing all that. Okay, one more thing, and it's not really the hardest question, but anything that you want to leave everybody listening with, or any other thoughts that you have that haven't gotten out yet about anything you've experienced, about anything going forward that you are looking forward to as you continue to age, anything at all that comes to mind. Peggy, I'll have you go first. I'll go around again.
I think I would just say that I just try to be happy with what I have. And to, like my husband, he'll leave his junk all over the house. He's a pack rat. Well, on the whole, though, he's a wonderful man. So I'll enjoy, so I spend 10 minutes putting his stuff away. Is that the end of the world? No. Does he care about it? No. So if I'm the one that cares, then I'll do it. And so that, and my daughters, my ex-husband was very toxic and they don't have much of a father. So I figure my real job is continuing to parent the both of them through the issues that they have. And so it's what we give to other people that's really going to make us happy in the end. It isn't how much money I have or how the most beautiful dress in the closet or the designer suits. And, you see some of those celebrities who've had plastic surgery and they look ridiculous. So, just to be comfortable as you can. It doesn't feel the same every day. I don't love myself every day, and sometimes I can't stand myself. But on the whole, I try to just be grateful and be kind to others. And I think if I just do that as much as I can, it'll carry me through. I guess that's it.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And Cricket?
I think I would say, number one, age is a number. And you could be old in your 20s if you desire. I mean, old. Feel old, be 100. So I would say, age being a number, love yourself. Be as healthy as you can possibly be. And enjoy life. Enjoy life. If don't be so regimented that you're going to bypass a cookie. If you want the cookie, eat it. Who cares? Just be kind to yourself. And then, and take care of yourself. And don't let anybody kill your dreams. You can still fulfill your dreams and be in your 70s and 80s. Follow your heart and love yourself. That's all I've got.
That's great. Thank you. And Melissa?
Yeah, love yourself is very good advice, and appreciate every day as much as you can. It's harder on some days than others, but yeah, as I mentioned, I'm divorced, and I have a grown daughter that I pretty much raised on my own, and I'm very pleased that my example as far as diet and exercise was transferred to her, and she, has really been very disciplined and good to her own body, and I got that from my own mother. I was lucky that way, that she was very into having a balanced diet, and she was not so much well, maybe it was generational, but she didn't quite understand that there's a connection between this and this, so she wasn't an exerciser. But I took care of my parents until they died in their 90s. And one of them had Alzheimer's and the other one had clear as could be in his mind. And to watch the difference between them was really something, but to watch how they deteriorated was also interesting, because you could see who was the stronger of the two. And, the exercise really makes a difference. And so does attitude and having a view of how you want to live your life, and having, continuing to have goals and have interests, and cultivating your mind as well as your body, because this isn't a dress rehearsal. We don't go around again, as far as we know.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And thank you all again so much for being here. Like I said, I'm extremely honored to have you, to know you, to hear your stories, and for you to let us put those stories out there. So thank you very much for doing this today, and I will talk to you again soon.
It's a real pleasure, Jessica.
Thank you, Lois. I felt like I won the lottery when my name got picked.
Thank you.
We'll just have to do it again soon.
Yeah.
So that was our amazing conversation. Isn't that awesome? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you again to Peggy and Melissa and Cricket for joining me and sharing. And thank you all for being here today and listening in. And I do have a link below if you want more information about Unlimited, as they all mentioned a few times. I will just have that link below and you can always check it out. And thanks again for being here, for listening in to these stories. And I hope to hear yours as well someday. All right, I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining me today on Meet Your Body. If you have a moment, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast, as it helps us tremendously. For more resources and workouts, you can visit my website, jessicavalantpilates.com, or find me on YouTube or Instagram at Jessica Valant Pilates.